The goal of the show is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. We also share 60 seconds of advertising news you need to know every single day on our LinkedIn. If you're following us there, you'll get access to these videos. You should turn on post notifications after you follow us so you never miss a beat. You can talk about the news really fast with your friends, your peers, or if you're an agency, your coworkers. It's a great ad. Now, today you're going to learn from Peter Bray, founder and ECD at Bray Co. Bray Co is an independent agency all about inspiring their clients and their clients' consumers. Peter has identified creativity as a white space. With tech giants leading the narrative, it seems like everything is about efficiency. How can we get more work faster and that effectiveness by just repeating the same sort of messaging out there? Peter does not like this, and I agree with him. So he'll talk about creativity as a white space in this industry today. He is his break-in story is phenomenal. He created his own agency at a young age and found a lot of success early on. Was at the top of holding companies, and now he believes the power of independent agencies. So a lot to learn here. You're going to want to connect with Peter. He is brilliant. To do that, listen to the end of the episode where he explains how you can reach out to him. Now, on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. Peter Bray, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well, Gino. Thanks for asking.
Of course, of course. I'm excited to talk with you today to learn about you, all your agency experience, because you have quite a bit in starting your own selling and going from holding company side to independent side, all your advice along the way, and really to understand what Bray and Company is about, because you're the founder in ECD. Is that correct,
That
sir?
is correct, Gino.
Wonderful. So let's get into it real quick. Where are you calling in from? What's going on in your life today?
Today I'm calling in from the sunny Coachella Valley. So fortunate enough to live both in California and New York. So a lot of air miles, but enjoy being in the desert as well as the cultural inspiration from New York.
Okay. So you hop back and forth between the two. And
Yep.
where is the agency based?
We're based in New York. So it's interesting. We started off as distributed. So we started in early 2018 in January. And so my thought was I was living in New York only at the time. And the thinking was there've got to be people like me who don't want to necessarily have to be based in the big city, but have experience. Because I knew I was going to move to the desert and at that stage. So I started the agency completely remote well before COVID. Interestingly, we weren't taken seriously before COVID came along. People said if you don't have an office, you're probably not a real agency. You're just a group of contractors, which we weren't. We were tiny. There was four of us. There was only four of us. But when COVID came along, suddenly everyone started talking about being remote and how they can do it well. But just last month, we made the decision to open up what we call the Inspiration Hub. So it's where we have 9 or so people of our people. We took out a floor of a building in Soho on Broadway, but we've really thought about doing it differently as opposed to a standard office.
Okay. So you have an inspiration hub in Soho. It's its own floor. What does that look like? Is it like how is it different from a traditional office?
Right now, it doesn't look too great because we're still trying to build it as we
Yep.
work there. Um, but look, seeing the shift to creators and influencers and clients want to be more collaborative. A lot of clients now don't want the magic box where you're a creative agency, you go away for 6 weeks
Mhm.
and you astound them and perform some magic. They're not wanting that. They want to be with you. Also, for a lot of people, going to the idea of an office, it's not fun. No one wants to be in a cubicle. You're sharing bathrooms where you might have been having your own bathroom for a couple of years working from home. So we want to make the space nice. We have the saying, just make it nice. So it's really going to feel more, we call it a cross between a speakeasy and a mid-century modern lounge,
Yep.
where people have various spaces. It's not a big space. It's only 3,000 square feet. It's one of those typical skinny New York lofts, right?
Yeah.
So we've tried to make it a space where, clients can come in. We have our own podcast studio. We can do shoots there. We have a lot of clients like Dwayne The Rock Johnson's tequila brand Terramana. We're the
Mm.
agency of record for him and that brand, where we can do shoots, where we can have a bar area. And there's a little bit of a secret area we're building as well that I can't talk about, which is something special within this speakeasy vibe. A little podcast studio, um, a client breakout space, really just a space that is dynamic.
Hmm.
I'm not a believer in cubicles in any way. I'm not a believer in rows of tables. So we're just trying to make it somewhere that people want to work, want to come in 4 days a week, but also maybe they want to bring their friends, or maybe clients want to bring their friends as
Yeah.
well. So we're trying to make it a different space, which is why we call it the Inspiration Hub. We're not in the business of innovative products. We're in the business of inspirational ideas
Yeah.
as an agency. So
I
it
like
makes
that. You
sense
know
for
your
us.
role. I feel
Yep.
like some agencies like to cross that line, and that's fine. But you guys have that clear positioning. So going back to this for your agency, then what's the mission? What's like your positioning statement? How do you, when you're talking to new clients or you're talking to new employees, how do you describe what they're walking into?
Really simple. So functionally, we're a full service creative agency.
Hmm.
But the reality is, our positioning is that inspiration is everything. And this is something we fundamentally believe. So a lot of agencies have lost their way. They're thought of as Kinkos by their clients. They're thought of as making widgets or pushing out assets. We need assets, 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 hundreds of assets pushed out a month. I believe the value of an agency is to actually inspire our clients. The reason is that if we can inspire our clients, our direct contacts, whether it be the CMO, the brand manager, whomever, if we can inspire those people, their whole brand, their whole company will be inspired. The result of that will be inspiring work that inspires the consumer, that moves the business. How much advertising do you see at the moment that truly inspires you?
Not much.
Maybe 5% if we're lucky. The difficult part and the brilliant part of what creative agencies can do is inspire people in categories that are kind of uninspiring, right? If it's an inspiring category, the work it isn't that difficult. It's still, you need the execution, but it's not difficult from an ideation perspective. But what we're seeing now is clients want to be inspired. They want to work with agencies who are fun. They want to work with agencies that make them think, that make them philosophical, that make them think about what the role of creative is. So inspiration is everything, is what we live, right? Hence the Inspiration Hub. And our goal in every meeting is to inspire the client somehow and just to
Nice.
make them think.
So let's talk about that then. So there's a clear positioning. What are some of those like examples, like a case study, some work that you've recently done that you feel truly amplifies that?
Sure. Look, there's something we're doing right now which typifies us as an agency. Um, there's a client called Portical that, unless you live in the south of the US, you probably don't know. They're the largest evaporative cooling company. So you get little units like air conditioners, but they run on water.
Hmm.
Um, large company now. We've took them from 60 million to around 140 million revenue.
Wow.
About a year and a half ago, they have one main manufacturing facility in Texas. If you look at the news, Portical, look them up, it burnt down. The whole thing burnt down. And this was on June the 6th. So not good timing for them when people are about to buy
Yeah.
coolers for summer.
Yeah.
It all burnt down. This devastated a town called Centra, Texas, because they're one of the main employers in Center. When a town's got 5,000 people and one of their main employers burns down, think about what that does to every restaurateur, the local theater, the baker, the butcher.
Hmm.
Think about what that does to a town. What I love about Bray Co, our agency, is we do want a long-term partnership. And so we said, we're here, whatever you need, forget our role as a creative agency, whatever you need, we'll do. I flew down there 4 days after and saw this incredible shell of this massive warehouse that looked like paper. But what we did is we decided, how do we really inspire people? So we thought, you know what? We're going to video their stories, how it's affecting them. And I'll never forget some of the stories. And they were thanking us just for being there and listening. And we're going to make a feature-length documentary that we hope to complete by the end of August this year about this unbelievable story about this town and how it brought everyone together, irrespective left or right, bring everybody together. So to me, inspiration, if you're going to live it, it needs to be in everything you do. And yes, we're going to have some great work for them, right? Which will be great for Portical, of course, but really telling a story. And we're trying to do that every time. And sometimes a lot of clients, they're a little bit scared at first when you give them some challenging ideas. But that's the role of creative agency. When I look at great Super Bowl ads, indeed most Super Bowl ads, what I'm impressed by is the fact they managed to gain the trust of the client to even make it. It's really hard, as you know, to get a Super Bowl ad over the line.
Oh, yeah.
You have a lot of fear. It's a big financial commitment. Often you might have 50 or more people involved. It's often decision by committee. Well done to everyone who makes them. So we're trying to inject inspiration wherever possible, whether it's the work, whether it's a TVC, whether it's a radio spot, or whether it's how we work or how our clients work as well.
Wonderful. And then can you tell us about some of the employees and like what does the agency look like today? Where are
Sure.
people at? How many?
Sure.
Do you have any distinct different types of roles outside of the usual stuff, or is it all tried and true?
Great question. So we, the first 3 years, we stayed at 4 people because essentially, because we're operating quite high level with CMOs, it was really me being, a creative consultant, ECD,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a lot of strategic consulting. Then about 2.5 years ago, one of our clients said, we wish you could do more. And I was like, of course, we can make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So in the last 3 years, 2.5 years, we've grown a lot. 2 years ago, we were probably 8 people. Then we were 12. Now we're 30.
Nice. Wow. It's a lot of humans.
Yeah, a lot of humans. And yes, we've tried to do things differently. Some advice for people. Our industry has been around for many decades. There's a reason agencies work the way they do. Many people have tried different ways of functioning, different processes. But I think there are there's around, I'd say, 2,500 agencies in the US. So let's think about all the agencies that have been around for the last 70 years. We've gotten to this point of evolution where things are done a certain way. So you don't want to upend the whole thing and go, right, we're going to do it differently. Because then you're also speaking a different language to the clients.
Mm-hmm.
Clients are used to retainers. They're used to hourly rates. If you're trying to get rid of all of that and institute, right, it's all going to be performance-based, a lot of clients don't speak that language.
Right.
Their procurement department doesn't speak the language. They're not going to work with you. So we've only made some small tweaks. Well, we think they're small tweaks. We've eliminated a strategy department. one thing that's been a bugbear for me, and again, I've been in a leadership role in an agency with 6,000 people in the C-suite, down to my first agency, which was in Indy. Um, I've always been surprised that strategy has been project based. My view is strategy should be an ever present, and strategy should be everywhere. So a great creative should be able to get their head around strategy. A great media buyer can get it. Why have we got this division called strategy? Now, I get you need leadership, but I don't believe strategy should be project based. So we never, if someone wants a strategic project, we say no. It's the only time if it's advertising, we're going to say yes, but if it's a strategic project, we'll say no. We'll say, you know what? Let's rethink this. So we do not have a strategy department. What we've done is we've merged strategy with account service. So I've also seen in account service, a lot of clients have a visceral reaction when they say, well, hold on, all these hours for account service, what value are they really adding? Bad account service, they're water carriers. They're moving buckets of water from one place to another, but they're not making the water better. They're not adding bubbles. They're not making it tastier. They're not creating more water. All it can do is spill some water, but they're moving a bucket of water from one place to another. What if we turned account service and said, you all need to be imbued with strategic nous? So we don't have anyone who's called an account manager or an account director. We call them creative strategy managers.
Hmm.
So that's really the only main change that we have to other agencies is we've eliminated strategy, and we always have strategy throughout every month. There's no such thing as a project. And we don't have dedicated strategists. They're creative strategy managers.
I
And by
love
the
it.
way, account service love it because they're upskilled all the time on strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. I don't think I've ever heard of that before in all my 5 years of podcasting. So
It's
thank
hard.
you.
It's hard to hire people for a role that they don't know what it is. So we tend to advertise account manager, account director, and we say, well, actually, you're a creative strategy manager.
Yes, yes. I find that challenging as well when I'm trying to explain what we do with breaking and entering with agencies. And it's, I haven't really seen it, and they haven't seen what we do, and they're not used to what we're doing because it's really never been done before with all of our crazy content that we make. So I'm with you on that. It just takes a little bit of time. So that's so great. And I appreciate you sharing that. Anything else that we need to know about your company before we get into your background that you want the world to know?
Uh, Look, we fight for creativity. Um, I believe fundamentally that the great advertising is just something that makes you feel. I'm not the only one who talks about that. But here's the thing, the loudest voices in the room right now are tech platforms,
Hmm.
and they don't speak the language, but they have the ear of a lot of CEOs and CMOs. And here you are as a creative agency going, actually, no, creativity matters,
Hmm.
right? Creativity does shift the dial. Creativity, you want to stand, if you have $10 million of media and your opponents have $10 million of media and you're trying to compete, what's going to make the difference? Creativity. What's going to turn that $1 of media spend into $10 of value? Creativity. So we will fight for creativity. And I'm actually I can announce something. We believe in it. We will fight for it to the point where we are establishing a residency scholarship in Joshua Tree, where people will be able to apply.
Well, can you start that over? You're establishing a scholarship from that top there.
Sorry. So Bray Co is establishing a scholarship where art and copy pairs or individuals who work at creative agencies will be able to spend a week in the Joshua Tree Desert, all expenses paid, to work on any creative project they want. And so it will be at a very famous artist's residence. It's a compound essentially. It's called AZ West. We are launching that in April. and that is open to everybody who works at a creative agency or a full service agency. And again, it's 1 week, all expenses paid. We just want people to indulge in creativity and ideate. And
I
they
love
don't
it.
have to ideate on clients. They can do whatever they want. So we are putting we're only a small agency. We're putting our money where our mouth is, and we will fight for creativity. Because again, you have the Googles, the Facebooks of the world who don't understand what creativity is. They're sales people. Of course, they're brilliant at what they do. We respect them. But who's the voice for creativity? Someone needs to be. And we encourage everyone to join us in this. Essentially, it's a fight because creativity is being devalued in our industry, but that's what draws people in.
Love it.
That is the magic.
Okay. Where can people find that application?
So the website's being spun up right now.
Yep.
But if you were to follow Bray Co on LinkedIn, the announcement was coming out later this month with all the details.
Wonderful. Wonderful. By the time this is out, application should be open. So thank you very much for sharing that. We'll include those. Now I need to understand how you got into all this. How did you break into advertising? What was that point when you got your first job? How'd you get it?
Sure. So I am a PhD flunky. I was doing a doctorate in film and literature, French film and literature, so not particularly useful. And I was lecturing and tutoring, but needed more cash. So I was looking in the newspaper at the time, as you did. This is back in 1995, 96. And there was an ad for people that knew how to use this thing called the internet. And I knew how to use it from my research, for my doctorate. Again, I flunked. I did not, I dropped out. So I knew how to use it. And I turned up to this little office and they gave me this test. What does www mean? What does HTTPS mean? It was 22 questions. I'll never forget it. I got 7 out of 22. 7 out of 22. So dismally failed. But here's the thing. What they appreciated was I could talk about fairly complex ideas in a simple way. I've always avoided jargon as much as I can. So they gave me a job. That little company became a company called Oz Email, which became the AOL of Australia, Oz Email. Became the largest ISP, internet service provider, in Australia. Most people, if they had an email address, had an Oz email address. And that was my big break. And then I had a friend who ran a PR agency. And they said, Peter, we're getting these clients coming to us and they want to advertise on this internet thing. But we don't have a division. I said, you know what? I think I can help you out. So I started this division that became an agency. And that agency was quite successful. You won't find it on my LinkedIn, but it was quite successful. But can I share with you the story about why I left and started my own indie agency?
Oh, please do.
So we were billing around $15 million, $16 million in around 1997, which was good. 97, yeah. 98. Within 18 months of launching. Now, it helped we had existing clients from the PR agency. But I'll never forget. So we'd successfully been doing this. I was the managing director, and someone in the agency needed a stapler. And so I said, yep, go buy it. We'll claim it. So they went and bought the stapler. Then the CFO of the whole group pulled me up 3 weeks later and said, there's this unauthorized transaction, this stapler. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? We built this agency and you're worried about a stapler? Because he wasn't day to day. He was the CFO of a whole group. Mm-hmm. And so the next day I resigned. I said, actually it wasn't the next day. It was 2 days later, because the next day I spent finding a good domain name, a good name for an agency. And that agency was called Clear Blue Day. It was up and running about 2 months later. It was very successful in Australia, won lots of awards, had great teams, very innovative, inspirational work. But that's how I ended up starting that's how I broke into the industry, which was a fledgling industry, but also I ended up starting my first agency, which was Clear Blue Day,
How old were you when you started that agency?
26.
My goodness.
Yeah. And fortunately, at that stage, most people were kind of novices about the internet, right? It was a different time. So we got away with a lot of things we really shouldn't have gotten away with. I'll never forget early on, uh, people could charge $10,000 for one web page. One web page was $10,000. There were no tools to build websites or anything like that. Everything was done by hand. WYSIWYG eventually came along. But we also were really lucky. Our clients were wonderful. They bought into what we were doing. And we had a fantastic team.
Wow. Wow. What a time to start a business and like have that advantage. Do you
Oh,
see anything like this today? Like maybe with AI, if you create some sort of tool, but like it's just so everything I feel like is so saturated. Do you see any like white spaces like this today?
well, we think creativity and ideas are actually a white space,
Yeah,
which
that
is
makes
why we
sense.
have our positioning,
Yeah.
because what people are yearning for. Look, it's really interesting in that I think we've confused effectiveness with efficiency. So there's a lot of talk about being more efficient, taking less hours. How do we use AI to refine, to pump out more assets for more jumping points? I think we're fishing in the wrong pond. I don't think clients are after, well, good clients are after efficiency. I think they're after effectiveness. If we can turn $1 of spend into $10 of EBIT, but we do it in an inefficient way, but it's effective, isn't that better than being efficient early on and taking 2 hours instead of five, but you don't get the same return? I think we're fishing in the wrong pond. The conversation shouldn't be around efficiency, which I think AI is very much around efficiency right now. And a lot of clients, because again, the big tech companies, they only speak one language, they're measuring a certain kind of efficiency, but they're not so good at measuring effectiveness. Why is it effectiveness hasn't had the same love from the tech platforms? Why is it all, first moment of truth, last moment of truth, last click attribution, first click attribution? No, what about effectiveness? Imagine if we'd spent the same amount of time on effectiveness as efficiency. That doesn't suit their narrative. But I do think we're fishing in the wrong pond. Let's think about the outcomes, how we're more effective, rather than focusing solely on efficiency.
I love it. I love it. So from your break-in and starting your own agency, what advice do you have for the next generation out there breaking in today? Uh, Whether should they go large agencies? Should they go holding company route? Does it matter? Should they start their own thing? I guess knowing what you know now. Let's say you're talking to your child that wants to join
Yeah.
this whole mess here, this whole industry. What advice are you telling them?
It's an incredible industry. There are very few industries where you'll learn how detergent is made, how Tide is made,
Yep.
and the next thing you're understanding how loan financing works. Then you're understanding how a brewery works.
Yep.
What an incredible industry! You're exposed to all these other verticals, and you'll travel the country. If you're lucky, you'll be traveling the world. Advertising is an amazing industry, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
It'll take you
Now,
to so many amazing places, and there's so many
it's
opportunities.
phenomenal.
You could start your own business later on.
It's phenomenal. Now, there are some bad actors.
Of
A
course.
lot of agencies suck.
Yeah.
They just do.
Yeah.
But please have some empathy for those agency owners, because it's really difficult running an agency and it's very lonely at times, and they're getting pressure from all places.
Oh yeah.
And we need to re-educate the industry as a whole, including clients, about where value lives. So we're not working 10 hours a day every day and calling people in on a Sunday. So look, my advice to people is, firstly, holding companies, large agencies, are completely different from indies. Indies if you want to fast forward your education and learn more about how agencies work, you're going to learn more at an indie. You're going to learn more faster. That said, you're not going to have as much exposure to the massive brand campaigns that you'll get at a large holding company agency. My view, and of course I'm biased, again, I have this saying, I've been to the top of the agency ladder and I didn't like the view. I'm firmly that indie agencies are what clients crave. If you want all the advertising to be 10% off here, 5% off there, you go to a holding company that does that at scale. But if you want the interesting creative work that is brave, go to an indie. If you're someone who's thinking about starting an agency and you're worried about all the competition, here's my advice. All these agencies, all this competition is out there for a reason, because there's demand. There are so many other agencies because there's demand for agencies. So don't be worried. Don't let it put you off that there's all these other agencies like a Bray Co or like a Mischief or whomever that are out there, because there's a reason there are thousands of advertising agencies, firstly. The second thing is, don't try and be everything to everybody. Know your lane. Clients want agencies who are brilliant at something, not good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
So work out what you can be brilliant at. Bray Co, if clients want to be inspired, we think we're pretty good.
Yeah.
But, we don't do product development. We don't do SEO. We don't do website builds. We don't do landing page optimization. We know what we're not.
Yes, that's so important, because it could be tempting as a business when you're just starting out that you want to just try everything and you lose that North Star because there's a big pay opportunity. And same thing with the aspiring advertisers. When they're looking for their first job, they'll claim that they can be a copywriter, art director, or strategist, or account person, all these things, and they might have some basic skills in all those, but it
We
shows that
can't hire you.
you're not
We
good at
can't
all of
hire
it.
you. We don't have a job for you.
Yeah.
If you can do everything, we don't have a job for you.
Yeah.
If you're a great art director or a great copywriter, we've got a job for you.
Absolutely.
Right? So again, there are the reasons. So yeah, special, and advice I was given as well, specialize. Right? Yeah. Specialize and know your track. And my final piece of advice is, when you're planning your next step, don't base it on where you are today. Work backwards. Mm-hmm. So my dream for Bray Co is for every one of our creatives to end up being an ECD at other agencies. If we've done that, I want us to be the ECD factory.
I like that.
That's what I want Bray Co to be. But plan where you want to be and then work backwards. What are the steps you need to take? And be really discerning about each step. Because a year, 18 months of the wrong step, that's 18 months you'll never get back.
Yes.
Right? And time cannot be bought.
I always say work backwards. I totally agree.
So be thoughtful about all of this, and really take your time to dive in. If it takes someone 6 weeks to make a decision about an agency, from my point of view, that's okay. I actually like that. They're being very thoughtful. Don't just be interviewed, interview the interviewer. It's because you're judging them as much as they're judging you.
Oh, yeah.
Be really thoughtful about it.
Peter, this is brilliant advice, brilliant story. I can't wait to follow along and see that documentary and that scholarship. What is the name of the scholarship, if people can Google? Like, do you have a name for it yet, or is that still working there?
We don't know where to put our name. It's going to be at a place called AZ West. So if you look up AZ West, Andrea Zattel is a very well-renowned artist. It's her compound.
Nice.
She's going to be at. But again, if you follow Bray Co on LinkedIn, follow our company page, it's going to be there in about 2 weeks.
Yeah. Now we're talking. I can't wait to see that go live. All the success, like I said, with the documentary, with your client, all that amazing stuff. You already are successful. It's going to keep on growing. So thank you for taking the time. I hope people can reach out to you on LinkedIn, if that's okay, if they have questions and they know that they're great at a specific role. They have that identified and they have a portfolio. or proof that they can do that specific thing, they'll reach out to you.
Please do. Welcome it.
Well, Peter, thank you so much for taking the time. Again, have a great rest of your day and best of luck.
You too, Gino. Thanks so much.
Golden.